I was the kind of husband who still fixed cabinet doors and believed in second chances. Turns out, I should have fixed my marriage instead. My name is Adrian Waverly, and for 15 years I thought I had it all figured out. Monica and I lived in one of those picture-perfect New England neighborhoods where the maple trees turn crimson in October and everyone waves from their perfectly manicured lawns. I worked as facilities director at Millbrook University Hospital, fixing problems before they became disasters. Monica climbed the corporate ladder in human resources, scheduling people's lives with the same precision she used to organize our spice rack. We had routines: coffee at 7, quick kiss goodbye, home by 6:30 for dinner. Weekends meant farmers markets and home improvement projects. I'd renovate our 1920s colonial while Monica handled the social calendar. PTA meetings, charity galas, wine nights with her girlfriends. The American dream, wrapped in mortgage payments and matching throw pillows. But dreams have a way of turning into nightmares when you're not paying attention. It started with little things. Monica working late more often, her phone buzzing at odd hours. She'd glance at the screen with this little smile I hadn't seen in years, then flip it face down on the counter. When I asked about work, she'd give me that HR-trained response. Just the usual chaos, honey. You know how it is. Except I didn't know how it was anymore. The first real warning came from Mrs. Dufresne, our 70-something neighbor who treated gossip like an Olympic sport. She cornered me while I was raking leaves one Saturday morning, her eyes bright with the kind of excitement that meant trouble. "Adrian, dear, I saw Monica at Riverside Cafe yesterday afternoon. She looked lovely in that blue dress. The one you bought her for your anniversary?" I nodded, wondering where this was heading. Mrs. Dufresne had a talent for making innocent observations sound like criminal accusations. She was having quite the animated conversation with that handsome contractor, Derek Maddox. You know, the one who renovated the Pattersons' kitchen? They seemed very friendly. The way she said friendly made my stomach twist. Derek Maddox was everything I wasn't. 6'2", broad shoulders, the kind of rugged good looks that made suburban wives volunteer for construction oversight. He was married to Janet, a quiet woman who always looked slightly overwhelmed at PTA meetings. "They're probably discussing the hospital renovation project," I said, though Monica had never mentioned working with Derek. Mrs. Dufresne's smile was all sympathy and sharp edges. "Of course, dear. I'm sure that's exactly what it was." That evening, I asked Monica about her day. She was loading the dishwasher with mechanical precision, each plate finding its designated slot. Boring meetings, endless emails, the usual corporate wasteland. She didn't look up from the dishes. "Why?" "Mrs. Dufresne mentioned seeing you at Riverside Cafe." Monica's hand stilled for just a moment. Then she resumed her loading routine. "Oh, right. I grabbed lunch with Tasha. You know how she gets when she needs to vent about her divorce proceedings." Tasha was Monica's best friend from college, a sharp-tongued real estate agent who treated marriage like a business merger that had gone bad. She'd been venting about divorce proceedings for 3 years now. "Mrs. Dufresne said you were with Derek Maddox." Monica finally turned around, her expression shifting into what I recognized as her professional mode. Calm, controlled, slightly condescending. "Derek stopped by our table to say hello. He's working on the hospital's new wing, remember? We discussed timeline issues." She closed the dishwasher with more force than necessary. "Since when do you take gossip reports from nosy neighbors?" "I don't. I was just curious." "Well, curiosity and Mrs. Dufresne make a dangerous combination. Next thing you know, she'll have us running some kind of construction conspiracy." She laughed, but it sounded hollow, like an echo in an empty room. Over the next few weeks, Monica's wine nights with the girls became more frequent. She'd come home with stories about Tasha's latest dating disasters or complaints about work politics. Her phone lived in her purse now, password protected. When I mentioned the change, she said it was for security reasons. "Identity theft is everywhere, Adrian. I can't be too careful with client information." Everything had a reasonable explanation. Late nights at the office were due to a major restructuring project. The new clothes were because she needed to dress for the position she wanted, not the one she had. The sudden interest in yoga classes was about stress management and self-care. I wanted to believe her. 15 years of marriage had taught me that trust was easier than suspicion. But doubt has a way of growing in the dark spaces between explanations. The breaking point came on a Thursday evening in November. Monica was at another wine night, this time at some new place downtown. I was in my workshop, refinishing an antique dresser we'd found at an estate sale, when I heard her phone buzzing from the kitchen counter. She'd forgotten it. Monica never forgot her phone. I stood there for a full minute, listening to the persistent buzzing, wrestling with myself. Checking her phone would cross a line we'd never uncrossed. But the buzzing continued, insistent and urgent. The screen lit up with a text preview. Derek, can't wait to see you tomorrow. Same place, same time. Wear that thing I like. My hands went numb. The sanding block dropped to the floor with a hollow thud. I picked up the phone, my thumb hovering over the screen. Another message appeared. Derek, Janet's visiting her sister this weekend. We'll have more time. Then another. Derek, last night was incredible. You drive me crazy. Beautiful. The phone slipped from my fingers, clattering across the kitchen tiles. I stared at it like it might explode, my mind racing through explanations that wouldn't come. Work project, innocent friendship, misunderstanding. But deep down, in that place where instinct lives, I knew the truth. My wife was having an affair with Derek Maddox. I picked up the phone and scrolled through more messages. Weeks of them, months. Plans to meet at hotels, restaurants, his construction trailer. Intimate details that made my stomach turn. Complaints about their respective spouses, promises of discretion, declarations of passion that Monica had never shown me. The worst part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was reading Monica's responses, seeing a version of my wife I'd never met. Playful, spontaneous, eager. She used words she'd never said to me, expressed desires she'd never shared. It was like discovering she'd been living a double life, and I was married to the boring version. I heard her car in the driveway and quickly placed the phone back where I'd found it. By the time she walked through the door, I was back in my workshop, mechanically sanding the same spot over and over. How was wine night? I called out, my voice sounding strange in my own ears. Same as always. Tasha's still impossible. Karen's still complaining about her mother-in-law. Monica appeared in the workshop doorway, looking perfectly composed. I forgot my phone. Did anyone call? Just some buzzing, probably work emails. She nodded and disappeared back into the house. I heard her footsteps on the stairs, the bedroom door closing, the shower starting. Normal sounds of a normal evening in a normal marriage, except nothing was normal anymore. I sat in my workshop until midnight, surrounded by half-finished projects and the smell of wood stain, trying to process what I'd learned. 15 years of marriage, reduced to secret text messages and hotel room rendezvous. All those late nights, wine dates, and yoga classes suddenly made perfect sense. Monica thought she was clever, covering her tracks with reasonable explanations and careful scheduling, but she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated me. She saw me as predictable Adrian, the reliable husband who fixed things and asked no questions, the man who would never suspect, never investigate, never fight back. She was about to learn how wrong she was. The next morning, Monica retrieved her phone and scrolled through messages while drinking her coffee. I watched her face for any sign of concern, but she maintained perfect composure. Years of HR training had taught her to hide her reactions. Busy day ahead? I asked, buttering my toast with deliberate casualness. The usual chaos, budget meetings, performance reviews. She glanced up with a smile that no longer reached her eyes. What about you? Hospital board meeting this afternoon. The new wing project is behind schedule. Something flickered across her expression. Oh? What kind of delays? Contractor issues, I think. Derek Maddox's crew is struggling with the timeline. Monica's coffee cup paused halfway to her lips. That's unfortunate. I hope it gets resolved quickly. I'm sure it will. Derek seems like the type who works hard to satisfy his clients. The double meaning hung in the air between us. Monica either didn't catch it or chose to ignore it. After she left for work, I called my friend Pete Kowalski. Pete ran security for the hospital's IT department, a former military guy who understood the value of information. We'd worked together for 8 years, sharing coffee breaks and complaints about hospital bureaucracy. Adrian, what's up? You sound weird. I need a favor, Pete. A personal one. Shoot. If someone wanted to gather information about a cheating spouse, hypothetically, what would be the legal way to do it? Pete was quiet for a moment. Hypothetically? Document everything. Photos, receipts, witness statements. Stay on public property. Don't hack anything. Don't trespass. And definitely don't do anything stupid like confronting the other guy in a parking lot. What about recording conversations? Depends on the state. Here in Massachusetts, you need consent from all parties for phone calls, but if someone's talking in a public place where they have no reasonable expectation of privacy, that's fair game. Hypothetically. Right. Hypothetically. Pete paused. You want to talk about this over beer? Not yet, but maybe soon. That afternoon, I drove past Riverside Cafe. Monica's silver BMW was parked next to Derek's oversized pickup truck. I found a spot across the street and waited. 20 minutes later, they emerged together, standing close enough that anyone watching would draw obvious conclusions. Monica looked different with Derek, animated, laughing, touching his arm when she spoke. She tilted her head in that flirtatious way I remembered from our early dating days. Derek responded with the confident smile of a man who knew he was getting what he wanted. They kissed goodbye next to her car. Not a friendly peck, but a full contact kiss that lasted long enough to make me grip the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. I took photos with my phone, hands shaking slightly. The evidence was clear, but seeing it with my own eyes made it real in a way that text messages couldn't. That evening, Monica came home with stories about her stressful day and demanding colleagues. She complained about budget cuts and impossible deadlines while I nodded and made sympathetic sounds. The performance was flawless, except now I could see the cracks. Over the weekend, Monica announced she was attending a charity gala for her company. It's one of those mandatory fun events. You'd be bored to tears with all the corporate networking. I don't mind corporate events. Remember the hospital foundation dinner? We had a good time. This is different, much more formal and political. Trust me, you'll be happier staying home with your workshop projects. She was right about one thing. I would be working on a project, just not the kind she expected. Monday morning, I walked into the hospital's administrative offices with a purpose. Elise Thornton was reviewing patient satisfaction reports in the conference room, her dark hair pulled back in a professional bun that somehow made her look both serious and approachable. Elise was the daughter of Richard Thornton, the hospital's CEO, but she'd earned her position as administrator through her own merit. She had an MBA from Boston University and a reputation for getting things done without stepping on toes. At 34, she was smart, attractive, and refreshingly direct in a world of corporate diplomacy. Adrian, good morning. How's the facilities budget looking? Like a mathematical impossibility, but we'll make it work. I set my coffee down and took the seat across from her. I wanted to discuss the construction delays on the new wing. Derek Maddox's project? What's the issue? Timeline problems, cost overruns, communication breakdowns. I think we need to consider alternative contractors for future projects. Elise frowned, making notes on her tablet. That's concerning. My father specifically chose Maddox Construction because of their reputation. What kind of communication problems? The kind where the contractor seems more interested in hospital personnel than hospital construction. She looked up sharply. That's a serious accusation. It's a serious problem. I have documentation, if you're interested. I'm very interested. I showed her the photos from Riverside Cafe, explaining the context without mentioning Monica by name. Elise studied the images with the focused attention of someone trained to spot problems before they became disasters. This is Derek Maddox with a hospital employee? A senior HR executive who has influence over contractor relationships. I see. Elise set down the tablet and leaned back in her chair. This could create significant liability issues for the hospital. Conflicts of interest, potential favoritism, workplace harassment claims. My thoughts exactly. What do you recommend? Distance, professional boundaries. Maybe consider other contractors for future projects? Elise nodded slowly. I'll discuss this with my father. In the meantime, I think we should document any additional incidents. Would you be willing to assist with that? Absolutely. Good. Why don't we discuss this further over dinner? Somewhere we can speak freely without worrying about office politics. The invitation hung in the air between us. Elise was attractive, intelligent, and offering exactly the kind of alliance I needed. But more than that, she was treating me like an equal, asking for my opinion and respecting my judgment. I'd like that, I said. Friday evening? I know a place downtown that's quiet and private. It's a date? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Elise smiled, and for the first time in months, I felt like someone actually saw me. Yes, she said. I suppose it is. Friday evening, I met Elise at Blackstone Tavern, an upscale restaurant in downtown Millbrook. She changed from her professional attire into a black dress that was elegant without being flashy. Her hair was down, framing her face in soft waves. You look lovely, I said, meaning it. Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself. We ordered wine and settled into a corner booth that offered privacy without feeling secretive. The conversation flowed naturally from work topics to personal interests. Elise had traveled extensively, spoke 3 languages, and shared my appreciation for old movies and good books. Tell me about your wife, she said over dessert. Monica, right? I've seen her at hospital functions. What would you like to know? Are you happy? The question was direct, unexpected, and impossible to answer diplomatically. I thought I was, I said finally. Turns out I was confusing comfortable with happy. That's an honest answer. You asked an honest question. Elise reached across the table and touched my hand. For what it's worth, I think she's an idiot. You don't even know the whole story. I know enough. I know you're kind, intelligent, and dedicated to your work. I know you notice details other people miss and care about doing the right thing. I know you make me laugh and listen when I talk. She squeezed my hand gently. If your wife can't see what she has, that's her loss. And your gain? I hope so. We left the restaurant together, walking slowly through downtown Millbrook's historic district. The November air was crisp, carrying the scent of wood smoke and fallen leaves. Elise slipped her arm through mine as we walked, a gesture that felt both natural and revolutionary. I should probably mention, she said, that my company is hosting a charity gala next weekend. It's a big event, lots of important people. Would you be interested in attending, as my date? My heart hammered against my ribs. Monica's company gala was next weekend, the same event she'd specifically excluded me from attending. I'd love to, I said. Fair warning, it's going to be formal and political. Lots of networking and corporate small talk. I think I can handle it. Good, because I have a feeling it's going to be a very interesting evening. She was right about that. More interesting than either of us could have imagined. The week leading up to the gala passed in a blur of careful planning and nervous anticipation. Monica was unusually busy, working late every night and spending her weekends shopping for the perfect dress. She'd found something elegant and expensive, a midnight blue creation that probably cost more than my monthly salary. You're going to look stunning, I told her as she modeled it in our bedroom. Thank you. I want to make a good impression. This event could be important for my career. I'm sure it will be memorable. She missed the undertone completely, too focused on her reflection to notice my expression. Meanwhile, Elise and I met twice more during the week, ostensibly to discuss hospital business, but really to plan our strategy for the gala. She'd confirmed that Monica's company had invited several hospital executives, including her father. The guest list read like a who's who of New England's medical and business communities. Are you sure about this? Elise asked during our Wednesday lunch meeting. Once we walk in there together, there's no taking it back. I'm sure. Your wife is going to be furious. My wife is going to be humiliated. There's a difference. Elise studied my face with those sharp, intelligent eyes. You've changed since Monday. You seem harder, somehow. Maybe I'm finally becoming the person I should have been all along. I like both versions, she said softly, but I especially like this one. Saturday evening arrived with unseasonable warmth, as if the weather itself was conspiring to make the evening perfect. I dressed carefully in my best suit, a charcoal gray number Monica had helped me pick out for hospital functions. The irony wasn't lost on me. Elise looked breathtaking in emerald green silk that complemented her dark hair and brought out the gold flecks in her brown eyes. She carried herself with the confidence of someone who belonged in rooms full of powerful people. Ready? She asked as our taxi pulled up to the Millbrook Grand Hotel. Ready. The ballroom was exactly what I'd expected. Crystal chandeliers, elaborate floral arrangements, and enough formal wear to stock a department store. A jazz quartet played in one corner while waiters circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. The city's elite mingled in small groups, conducting business disguised as social conversation. Monica was holding court near the bar, surrounded by colleagues and looking every inch the successful executive. Her midnight blue dress was indeed stunning, and she wore it with the confidence of someone who knew she was the center of attention. She hadn't seen me yet. There's my father, Elise said, nodding toward a distinguished man in his 60s who was deep in conversation with the mayor. Should we make our entrance? Let's do it. We walked into the ballroom hand in hand, and I felt the exact moment when people began to notice. Conversations paused mid-sentence, heads turned, whispers started. Elise Thornton was well known in these circles, and her choice of companion would be noted and discussed. Richard Thornton spotted us first, his eyebrows raising slightly when he recognized me. He excused himself from his conversation and approached with the measured stride of a man accustomed to command. Elise, you look beautiful as always. He kissed his daughter's cheek before turning to me with a calculating smile. Adrian, isn't it? From the hospital? Yes, sir. Thank you for including me this evening. Any friend of Elise's is welcome. He studied our joined hands with interest. I wasn't aware you two were acquainted. We've been working closely on several projects, Elise said smoothly. Adrian has some excellent insights about contractor relationships and professional boundaries. Does he now? How fascinating. Richard Thornton was nobody's fool. He understood exactly what his daughter was telling him, and his slight smile suggested he approved. We should mingle, Elise said. I want to introduce Adrian to some people. As we moved through the crowd, I caught glimpses of Monica across the room. She was animated, laughing at someone's joke, completely in her element. I wondered if Derek was here tonight, playing the role of dutiful husband while planning his next rendezvous with my wife. Adrian Waverly, isn't it? I turned to find a woman in her 50s with perfectly styled silver hair and the kind of jewelry that suggested old money. Yes, ma'am. Margaret Blackwood, Hospital Foundation Board. I've heard wonderful things about your work. The new wing project has been quite impressive. Thank you, though I think the contractor deserves most of the credit. Derek Maddox? Yes, he's quite dedicated to his work. I see him at the hospital quite frequently, often meeting with various staff members. The way she said it made clear she'd noticed Derek's extracurricular activities. In a community this size, secrets had a way of becoming public knowledge. He's certainly thorough, I agreed. Margaret's smile was all sharp edges. Oh yes, very thorough indeed. We continued our circuit of the ballroom, and I found myself enjoying the evening more than I'd expected. Elise was an excellent companion, introducing me to influential people and including me in conversations about business and politics. For the first time in years, I felt like I was being seen as something more than just Monica's reliable husband. Having fun? Elise asked during a quiet moment. More than I expected. Good, because I think we're about to have company. I followed her gaze and saw Monica approaching, her smile bright and professional. She'd finally spotted us, and her expression suggested she was curious rather than concerned. Adrian, what a wonderful surprise. I had no idea you were attending tonight. Last-minute invitation, I said calmly. Monica, I'd like you to meet Elise Thornton. Elise, this is my wife, Monica. The two women shook hands, sizing each other up with the practiced assessment of experienced professionals. Thornton, Monica repeated, her mental wheels turning. Are you related to Richard Thornton? He's my father. I watched the realization hit Monica like a physical blow. Her smile faltered for just a moment before snapping back into place, but the damage was done. She understood exactly what she was seeing. Her husband at her company event with the CEO's daughter. How lovely, Monica managed. And how did you two meet? Through work, Elise said smoothly. Adrian's been consulting on some projects for the hospital. He has such valuable insights about professional relationships and workplace dynamics. Another subtle dig that Monica couldn't quite interpret but clearly felt. Her composure was cracking around the edges, the perfect HR executive facade showing stress fractures. Well, I should get back to my colleagues, Monica said. It was lovely meeting you, Elise. Adrian, we'll talk later. The way she said later suggested our conversation would be anything but pleasant. As Monica walked away, I noticed several people watching our interaction with obvious interest. In a room full of gossips and social climbers, we just provided the evening's entertainment. That went well, Elise said dryly. Better than I hoped. She's beautiful. Yes, she is. But not very bright, apparently. I looked at Elise with surprise. What makes you say that? She just walked away from you, again. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of introductions, conversations, and carefully orchestrated social maneuvering. Monica kept her distance, but I could feel her watching us from across the room. Her colleagues had clearly noticed the tension, and I caught several of them glancing between Monica and our little group with obvious curiosity. Derek never appeared. Either he hadn't been invited, or Monica had decided it would be too risky to have both her husband and her lover in the same room. As the evening wound down, Richard Thornton approached us near the coat check. Adrian, I hope you enjoyed yourself tonight. Very much, sir. Thank you again for the invitation. I have a feeling we'll be seeing more of each other. Elise speaks very highly of your work, and I value her judgment. He paused, studying my face with the same calculating intelligence I'd seen in his daughter. I also appreciate loyalty and discretion. They're rare qualities in today's business environment. I understand, sir. I'm sure you do. He shook my hand with the firm grip of a man sealing a deal, then kissed Elise goodnight and disappeared into the crowd of departing guests. What was that about? I asked. My father likes you. That's not something that happens often. And what about you? Do you like me? Elise stepped closer, her hand finding mine. I like you very much, Adrian Waverly, more than I probably should. Good, because I have a feeling things are about to get complicated. I hope so. I've always enjoyed a challenge. As our taxi pulled away from the hotel, I caught a glimpse of Monica in the lobby, surrounded by her colleagues but looking oddly isolated. Her perfect evening had been disrupted, her social triumph tainted by the unexpected appearance of her husband with another woman. But this was just the beginning. Monica thought she could compartmentalize her life, keeping her affair separate from her marriage and her career. She was about to learn that actions have consequences, and secrets have a way of destroying everything they touch. The real revenge was just getting started. Sunday morning arrived with the kind of awkward tension that follows a social disaster. Monica was already in the kitchen when I came downstairs, dressed in her yoga clothes and nursing a cup of coffee like it contained the answers to life's problems. "We need to talk," she said without looking up. "Good morning to you too." "Don't..." Her voice carried the sharp edge I'd learned to recognize over 15 years of marriage. "Don't pretend last night was normal." I poured my own coffee and leaned against the counter, studying my wife's face. She looked tired, older somehow, as if the stress of maintaining her double life was finally showing. "What exactly do you want to talk about?" "You know exactly what. Your little performance at the gala." "Performance?" "Showing up with Elise Thornton, holding hands like teenagers, making sure everyone saw you together." Monica's composure was slipping, revealing the anger underneath. "Do you have any idea how that looked?" "How did it look, Monica?" "Like you were trying to humiliate me in front of my colleagues." The accusation hung in the air between us, loaded with irony that apparently only I could see. "Were you humiliated?" Of course I was humiliated. People were staring, whispering, asking questions I couldn't answer. "What kind of questions?" Monica set down her coffee cup with enough force to make it ring against the granite countertop. Questions about my marriage, about why my husband was at my company event with another woman, about what was going on in my personal life. "And what did you tell them?" "What could I tell them? I had no idea you were even going to be there, let alone with her." I nodded slowly, processing her words. Monica was angry about being caught off guard, about losing control of the narrative. She wasn't angry about me being with another woman. She was angry about the social embarrassment. "I'm sorry you felt humiliated," I said carefully. "That wasn't my intention." "Then what was your intention?" "To have a pleasant evening with an intelligent, attractive woman who actually enjoys my company." The words hit their target. Monica's face flushed, and her professional mask slipped completely. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means exactly what it sounds like. Elise invited me to the gala, I accepted, and we had a wonderful time together." "Elise invited you? Why would she do that?" "Because she likes me. Novel concept, I know." Monica stared at me like I'd started speaking a foreign language. In her world, social interactions were strategic, calculated moves in an ongoing game of professional advancement. The idea that someone might genuinely enjoy my company seemed to confuse her. "This is ridiculous," she said finally. "You're acting like a child, Adrian, like some middle-aged man having a midlife crisis." "Maybe I am having a midlife crisis. Maybe I'm finally realizing that I deserve better than being taken for granted." "Taken for granted? What are you talking about?" The question was so absurd, so completely lacking in self-awareness that I almost laughed. Instead, I finished my coffee and headed for the door. "I'm going for a drive. We can continue this conversation when you're ready to be honest." "Honest about what?" I turned back to look at my wife, this woman I'd shared 15 years of my life with and felt nothing but pity. "Everything, Monica. Absolutely everything." I left her standing in the kitchen, confusion and anger warring across her features. She still thought she could control the situation, manage the crisis like any other HR problem. She had no idea that I already knew about Derek, about the hotels and secret meetings and intimate text messages, but she was about to find out. I drove to Pete's house, a modest ranch in the older part of town where he lived with his wife Carol and their twin daughters. Pete was in his garage working on a vintage Mustang that had been his obsession for the past 5 years. "Adrian, wasn't expecting to see you today. How'd the gala go?" "Better than expected. I need that favor we discussed." Pete straightened up, wiping his hands on a shop rag. "The hypothetical information gathering?" "Not hypothetical anymore." "Ah, want to talk about it?" I told him everything. The text messages, the photos, the affair with Derek Maddox. Pete listened without interruption, his expression growing darker as I laid out the evidence. "How long?" he asked when I finished. "Months, maybe longer." "And you're sure?" "Completely sure." Pete nodded slowly. "What do you want to do about it?" "I want to document everything, legally, carefully, but thoroughly. I want a complete record of her affair before I decide how to handle it." "That's smart. Emotional decisions lead to stupid mistakes." Pete grabbed 2 beers from the garage refrigerator and handed me one. "What's your timeline?" "Soon. Monica's getting suspicious about last night, and I don't want to give her time to cover her tracks." "Fair enough. I can help with surveillance equipment, legal advice, that sort of thing. But Adrian?" "Yeah? Make sure you're doing this for the right reasons. Revenge feels good in the moment, but it can eat you alive if you're not careful. This isn't about revenge, Pete. It's about justice. Sometimes they're the same thing, sometimes they're not. Monday morning, I arrived at work early and found Elise already in her office, reviewing quarterly reports with the focused intensity that made her so effective. "Good morning," I said from her doorway. "Busy weekend?" She looked up with a smile that made my chest tighten. "Very busy. I spent most of yesterday fielding phone calls about Saturday night." "Good calls or bad calls?" "Interesting calls. Apparently we caused quite a stir." I stepped into her office and closed the door behind me. "Any regrets?" "None whatsoever. You?" "Only that we didn't do it sooner." Elise leaned back in her chair, studying my face. "You seem different today. More determined." "I had a conversation with Monica yesterday morning. It clarified some things for me." "Such as?" "Such as the fact that she's completely oblivious to her own behavior. She was furious about Saturday night, but not for the reasons you'd expect." "What reasons?" "She was angry about being embarrassed in front of her colleagues. Not about me being with another woman, but about losing control of her professional image." Elise frowned. "That's odd." "It's revealing. Monica sees everything through the lens of career advancement and social status. Personal relationships are just another form of networking." "Including your marriage?" "Especially our marriage." Elise was quiet for a moment, processing this information. "What are you going to do?" "What I should have done months ago. I'm going to stop being the reliable, predictable husband who never asks questions or makes waves. And start being what instead? Someone who fights back." That afternoon, I implemented the first phase of my plan. Using Pete's equipment and advice, I began documenting Monica's activities with the thoroughness of a professional investigator. Her lunch meetings, after-work appointments, weekend errands, everything went into a detailed log with photos, timestamps, and location data. The pattern was even more extensive than I'd realized. Monica and Derek were meeting 3 or 4 times a week, always at different locations, always with carefully constructed alibis. They'd turned infidelity into a precision operation, complete with backup plans and communication protocols. But precision operations have a weakness. They depend on routine, and routines can be disrupted. Wednesday evening, Monica announced another wine night with the girls. "Tasha's going through a rough patch with the divorce. She needs moral support." "Of course. Give her my best." Monica kissed my cheek with the mechanical affection of long habit and headed out for her evening of moral support. 20 minutes later, I followed. The Riverside Inn was a boutique hotel on the outskirts of town, the kind of place that catered to business travelers and discreet romantic encounters. Monica's BMW was parked next to Derek's truck in the back lot, hidden from casual observation but visible to anyone who knew where to look. I parked across the street and settled in to wait. Pete had equipped me with a telephoto lens and recording equipment, all perfectly legal for use on public property. The hotel's parking lot was well lit and clearly visible from the street. At 10:30 p.m., Monica and Derek emerged from the hotel's side entrance. They were laughing about something, Derek's arm around Monica's waist in a gesture of casual intimacy. Monica looked relaxed, happy in a way I hadn't seen in years. They kissed goodbye next to her car, a long, passionate embrace that left no doubt about the nature of their relationship. Then Derek climbed into his truck and drove away, followed 5 minutes later by Monica. I had it all on camera. High-resolution photos, time-stamped and geotagged, showing my wife leaving a hotel with another man. Evidence that would hold up in any court or corporate boardroom. But I wasn't planning to use it in court. I had something much more effective in mind. Thursday morning, I called in sick to work and spent the day researching Derek Maddox's business relationships. His construction company had contracts with 3 major clients: the hospital, Monica's corporation, and the city's public works department. All 3 contracts had been awarded within the past 18 months, coinciding with the timeline of his affair with Monica. Interesting coincidence. I also researched the professional standards and ethics policies for Monica's company. Like most major corporations, they had strict rules about conflicts of interest, particularly regarding vendor relationships and personal conduct that could reflect poorly on the organization. Very strict rules. By Thursday evening, I had assembled a comprehensive dossier on both Monica and Derek, their affair, their professional connections, their potential violations of corporate policy and professional ethics. It was a roadmap for destruction, and I was ready to use it. But first, I had one more card to play. Friday afternoon, I called Monica at work. "Hi, honey, how's your day going?" "Busy as always, budget reviews, staff meetings, the usual chaos. I was thinking we should do something special this weekend." Maybe dinner at that place you like downtown, followed by drinks at the Riverside Inn. I hear they have a nice bar. The silence on the other end of the line stretched long enough to confirm my suspicions. The Riverside Inn? Monica's voice was carefully neutral. Pete recommended it, said it was romantic, discreet, perfect for a couple who want some privacy. I'm not sure about this weekend, Adrian. I have a lot of work to catch up on. More wine nights with Tasha? Among other things. Of course. Well, maybe another time? Maybe. After I hung up, I sat back in my chair and smiled. Monica was rattled, worried that I might be getting suspicious. She was right to be worried, because the real fun was just beginning. Saturday morning brought unseasonably warm weather and a text message that changed everything. I was in my workshop, organizing tools and planning my next move, when my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. This is Janet Maddox. I think we should talk. Derek's wife, the quiet woman from PTA meetings who always looked overwhelmed and slightly sad. I stared at the message for a long moment, wondering how she'd gotten my number and what she wanted to discuss. I called her back immediately. Mrs. Maddox, this is Adrian Waverly. You sent me a text? Yes. Her voice was soft but steady. I was hoping we could meet somewhere private. There are things you need to know about your wife and my husband. What kind of things? The kind that are better discussed in person. Are you free this afternoon? We arranged to meet at a coffee shop in the next town over, somewhere neither of us was likely to encounter mutual acquaintances. Janet was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with her hands wrapped around a large coffee cup like she needed the warmth. She looked older than I remembered, worn down by stress and disappointment, but her eyes were sharp, intelligent, and filled with a determination I hadn't expected. Thank you for coming, she said as I sat down across from her. Thank you for reaching out. How did you get my number? Hospital directory. I work part-time in medical records. Janet managed a weak smile. It's amazing what you can find when you know where to look. What did you want to discuss? Our spouses and their relationship. The word hung between us, loaded with pain and implications. How long have you known? I asked. 6 months, officially. Longer, if I'm being honest with myself. Janet's grip tightened on her coffee cup. Derek's not as clever as he thinks he is. Late nights, mysterious phone calls, sudden improvements in his wardrobe and grooming habits. The classic signs. Have you confronted him? Once. He denied everything, made me feel like I was being paranoid and jealous. Gaslit me into believing it was all in my head. Her voice carried a bitter edge, but I knew better. So you started investigating. I hired a private investigator. Cost me $3,000 I couldn't afford, but it was worth every penny. Janet reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. I have photos, hotel receipts, phone records, credit card statements, everything. She slid the envelope across the table. I opened it carefully, spreading the contents between us. The evidence was overwhelming. Dozens of photos showing Monica and Derek together. Documented proof of hotel stays, restaurant meals, and shopping trips. A complete record of their affair going back 8 months. This is comprehensive. I'm very thorough when I'm angry. Janet's smile was sharp as a blade. The question is, what do we do about it? What do you want to do? I want them to pay. Not just Derek, but your wife, too. She knew he was married, knew he had children, and she didn't care. She pursued a married man and helped destroy my family. Janet's composure cracked slightly, revealing the pain underneath her controlled exterior. I want my daughters to understand that actions have consequences, she continued. I want Derek's clients to know what kind of man they're doing business with, and I want your wife's colleagues to see her for what she really is. That sounds like revenge. It sounds like justice. I studied Janet's face, seeing my own anger reflected in her eyes. We were both victims of the same betrayal, both married to people who'd chosen their own selfish desires over their family obligations. What did you have in mind? I asked. Janet's smile was cold and calculating. I was thinking about a public revelation, something that would expose them both to the people who matter most in their professional and social circles. Such as? Derek's biggest client is the hospital where you work. Your wife's company does business with several organizations where reputation matters. What if key people in those organizations received anonymous packages containing evidence of their affair? It was elegant in its simplicity. No confrontations, no dramatic scenes, just the quiet distribution of factual information to people who would draw their own conclusions. That's actually brilliant. I have my moments. Janet gathered up the photos and documents. I can handle Derek's professional contacts. You handle your wife's. When? Monday morning. give them a weekend to enjoy their secret romance, then watch their world collapse. We shook hands across the table, sealing our alliance. Two wronged spouses, united in purpose and determined to see justice done. "One more thing," Janet said as we prepared to leave. "After Monday, I never want to see or hear from Derek again. I'm filing for divorce and moving back to Vermont with my daughters. This is my closure, my way of ending this chapter of my life. And if Derek tries to contact you, he won't, because after Monday, he'll be too busy dealing with the consequences of his choices." Monday morning arrived gray and drizzly, matching my mood as I prepared to execute our plan. I'd spent Sunday creating anonymous packages for key people in Monica's professional network, her direct supervisor, the head of human resources, several board members, and the CEO of her company. Each package contained carefully selected photos, hotel receipts, and a brief, factual summary of Monica's affair with Derek Maddox. No editorial commentary, no emotional appeals, just documentation of behavior that violated the company's ethics policies. I mailed the packages from different post offices around the city, ensuring they would arrive throughout the week, rather than all at once. The goal was to create a slow-building wave of awareness rather than a sudden explosion of gossip. At work, I maintained my normal routine, attending meetings and handling facilities issues as if nothing had changed. But I kept my phone close, waiting for the inevitable call from Monica. It came at 2:30 p.m. "Adrian, I need you to come home immediately." Monica's voice was tight with controlled panic, the professional composure cracking under pressure. "What's wrong?" "Just come home, now." I found Monica in our living room, pacing like a caged animal with her phone pressed to her ear. She was talking in rapid, urgent tones to someone who was clearly not providing the answers she wanted. "I don't care what the policy says. This is harassment, and I want it stopped. No, I don't know who sent them. Yes, I understand the implications." She hung up and turned to face me, her expression a mixture of fear and fury. "Someone sent photos to my office, photos of me with Derek." I arranged my features into an expression of confusion and concern. "What kind of photos?" "You know exactly what kind of photos. Don't pretend to be stupid, Adrian." "I honestly have no idea what you're talking about." Monica stared at me for a long moment, searching my face for signs of deception. I'd had years of practice hiding my emotions from her, and the skill served me well now. "Someone is trying to destroy my career," she said finally. "Anonymous packages with photos, hotel receipts, documentation of personal activities." "Personal activities?" "My relationship with Derek." The admission hung in the air between us. After months of lies and deception, Monica had finally told me the truth. "Your relationship with Derek," I repeated slowly. "You mean your affair?" It's complicated, Adrian." "Complicated how? You're either having an affair or you're not." Monica's composure crumbled completely. She sank onto the couch, her head in her hands, looking smaller and more vulnerable than I'd seen her in years. "Yes," she whispered. "I'm having an affair with Derek." "How long?" 8 months. "Why?" Monica looked up at me with eyes full of tears and something that might have been regret. "Because he makes me feel alive, because he's passionate and exciting and everything you're not." The words came out in a rush, as if she'd been holding them back for months. "Because I was tired of being married to someone who treats me like a roommate instead of a lover." "So this is my fault?" "No. Yes. I don't know." Monica wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I never meant for it to happen. It just did. And now someone's trying to expose you. Someone's trying to ruin my life, my job, my reputation, everything I've worked for." I sat down across from her, studying my wife's face. She looked genuinely frightened, finally understanding that her actions had consequences beyond her control. "Who do you think sent the photos?" "I don't know. Derek thinks it might be his wife, but Janet doesn't seem smart enough to put together something this sophisticated." The casual dismissal of Janet's intelligence made my jaw clench. Monica had no idea how badly she'd underestimated Derek's wife. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know. My supervisor wants to meet with me tomorrow morning. HR is conducting an investigation. The board is asking questions." Monica's voice broke slightly. "I could lose everything, Adrian." "Maybe you should have thought about that before you started the affair." The words came out harsher than I'd intended, but I felt no urge to soften them. Monica had made her choices, and now she was facing the consequences. "I know you're angry," she said quietly. "You have every right to be angry, but I need your help." "My help?" "I need you to stand by me, present a united front, show my colleagues that our marriage is solid, that this was just a temporary mistake." The audacity of the request took my breath away. Monica wanted me to help her cover up her affair, to lie to her colleagues and protect her career after she'd spent months betraying our marriage. You want me to lie for you. I want you to support me, like a husband should. Like a husband should? I stood up, anger finally breaking through my careful control. Where was my supportive wife when I needed her? Where was the woman who promised to love and honor me when she was in hotel rooms with Derek Maddox? Adrian, please. No, Monica, I'm done. I'm done being the reliable husband who fixes problems and asks no questions. I'm done being taken for granted and treated like furniture. What are you saying? I'm saying that you made your choice 8 months ago. Now you get to live with the consequences. Monica stared at me in shock, as if she couldn't believe I was refusing to help her. In her mind, I was still predictable Adrian, the man who would always put her needs before his own dignity. If you don't help me, she said slowly, our marriage is over. Our marriage has been over for 8 months. You just forgot to tell me. I walked toward the door, leaving Monica sitting alone in our living room with the wreckage of her carefully constructed life. Where are you going? She called after me. To see someone who actually wants my company. Adrian, wait. But I was already gone, walking away from 15 years of marriage and toward a future that suddenly seemed full of possibilities. Behind me, Monica's phone started ringing again. Probably another colleague with questions about the photos, another crack in the facade she'd worked so hard to maintain. The revenge was working exactly as planned. But more importantly, I was finally free to become the man I should have been all along. The man Elise Thornton was waiting for. 6 weeks later, I stood in the lobby of Millbrook's newest luxury apartment complex, holding a set of keys to my new life. The divorce papers had been filed, the house was on the market, and Monica's career was in ruins. The anonymous packages had done their work with surgical precision. Monica's company had conducted a thorough investigation and found clear violations of their ethics policies. Derek's construction business had lost 2 major contracts, including the hospital project. Both of their reputations in the tight-knit professional community were permanently damaged. Monica had tried everything: denial, bargaining, threats, and finally desperate attempts at reconciliation. But the evidence was overwhelming, and the social damage was irreversible. She'd been quietly transferred to a lesser position in a different department, her career trajectory permanently derailed. Derek's wife had filed for divorce and moved to Vermont with their children, just as she'd planned. Derek was facing financial ruin and social ostracism, his marriage and business both destroyed by his inability to keep his affairs private. Justice, as Janet had said, swift, thorough, and final. Ready to see your new place? Elise asked, slipping her arm through mine. More than ready. We rode the elevator to the 15th floor in comfortable silence. The apartment was everything I'd wanted: modern, spacious, and completely free of memories. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of the city, and the open floor plan was perfect for entertaining. What do you think? Elise asked as we walked through the empty rooms. I think it's perfect. Good, because I was hoping you might want some company while you settle in. I turned to face her, seeing the question in her eyes. We'd been careful over the past 6 weeks, maintaining professional boundaries while my divorce proceeded. But now, with the legal proceedings underway and my new life beginning, those boundaries were no longer necessary. I'd like that very much, I said. Elise smiled and stepped closer, her hand finding mine. I should warn you, I'm not the easiest person to live with. I'm demanding, opinionated, and I have very high standards. Sounds perfect. I'm tired of low expectations and comfortable compromises. Good, because I have plans for you, Adrian Waverly. Big plans. Such as? Such as showing you what it's like to be with someone who actually appreciates what they have. We kissed there in the empty apartment, surrounded by boxes and possibilities. It was a kiss full of promise and passion, everything my marriage to Monica had never been. Later, as we unpacked boxes and planned furniture arrangements, Elise's phone buzzed with a text message. She glanced at it and smiled. What is it? I asked. My father. He wants to offer you the head of operations position at the hospital. Apparently, your handling of the contractor situation impressed him. The promotion would mean more responsibility, better pay, and increased status in the community. Everything Monica had always claimed to want from me, offered freely by people who actually valued my contributions. What did you tell him about us? I asked. The truth, that you're brilliant, loyal, and exactly the kind of man I've been waiting for. And he's okay with that? He's thrilled. He's been wanting me to settle down with someone substantial. Substantial. Not reliable or predictable or safe. Substantial. There's just one condition, Elise continued. What's that? He wants to make sure you're completely finished with your past. No lingering attachments, no unresolved issues. I'm finished. Good, because Monica called my office this afternoon. I looked up sharply. What did she want? To warn me about you. She said you were vindictive and manipulative, that I should be careful about getting involved with someone so calculating. And what did you tell her? Elise's smile was sharp and satisfied. I told her that vindictive and manipulative were exactly the qualities I found most attractive in a man, that I was tired of weak, passive partners who let people walk all over them. How did she respond? She hung up, but not before I heard her crying. I felt a moment of something that might have been pity for my soon-to-be ex-wife. Monica had lost everything: her marriage, her career prospects, her social standing, and her lover. She was facing a future as diminished as mine was bright. But the pity passed quickly. Monica had made her choices, pursued her desires without regard for consequences. Now she was learning what it felt like to be on the receiving end of someone else's strategic thinking. Any regrets? Elise asked, watching my face carefully. None whatsoever. Good, because I have a feeling we're going to be very happy together. She was right. 6 months later, we were engaged. A year after that, married in a ceremony attended by everyone who mattered in Millbrook's professional community. Richard Thornton walked his daughter down the aisle with obvious pride, and I stood at the altar knowing I'd found exactly what I'd been missing. Monica attended the wedding, not as a guest, but as part of the catering staff. Her career had never recovered from the scandal, and she'd been forced to take whatever work she could find. She served champagne to the same colleagues who had once considered her a rising star, her face carefully composed, but her eyes full of bitter recognition. Maddox wasn't there. He'd left town 6 months earlier, his business bankrupt, and his reputation destroyed. Last I'd heard, he was working construction in Florida, starting over with nothing but the clothes on his back. As Elise and I danced our first dance as husband and wife, I caught sight of Monica clearing glasses from empty tables. She looked older, defeated, diminished by the consequences of her choices. Our eyes met across the ballroom, and I saw the exact moment she understood what had really happened. The careful planning, the strategic timing, the methodical destruction of everything she'd valued. She realized that her reliable, predictable husband had orchestrated her downfall with the same precision she'd once used to organize our spice rack. I smiled at her, a cold expression of complete satisfaction. Monica's face went pale, and she turned away quickly, disappearing into the kitchen with her tray of empty glasses. "What are you thinking about?" Elise whispered in my ear. "The future," I said. "Our future." "And the past?" "What past? As far as I'm concerned, my life started the night I met you." Elise laughed, the sound bright and genuine in the warm ballroom air. Around us, our friends and colleagues celebrated our happiness, toasting our success and wishing us well. Monica had been right about one thing. I'd never find anyone better than her, because I'd found someone infinitely better, someone who saw my worth and appreciated my strengths, someone who understood that loyalty and intelligence were gifts to be treasured, not taken for granted. Monica had said I'd never find anyone better than her. Instead, I'd found someone who made me better than I'd ever been before.